Holy Grail.
Hey there, football fans. My name is Derek P. Fields, and welcome to the Gridiron Blitz, where we talk all things football. Today, we're going to talk about something that has come up in the recent days. That is that the NFL owners, are really, truly pushing for an 18-game regular season. Now, there are a total of 20 games played throughout the preseason and the regular season. But as we know, those initial preseason games don't have much impact on the quality of the game. It's more of a thing that is done to kind of facilitate the younger, newer players, less experienced players, and those trying to make the team. But what we're going to do today, we're going to take a look at a video. Now, this video is quite lengthy. It is over 11 minutes long. So grab your popcorn, get you a slushie. Let's get this thing started.
The NFL Players Association has been averse to expanding the NFL's regular season from 16 to 18 games. That is now a thing again. It had gone away. The NFL realized, and Chris, this dates back, I think, to 6, 7, 8 years ago. The commissioner was routinely trashing the quality of the NFL's preseason because the idea was, hey, we shrink the preseason, we expand the regular season. That's what the end game has always been. The preseason stinks. Well, what do we do with these 2 extra games that we get rid of? Hey, I got an idea. Let's play them in the regular season. And that dates back to when the NFL expanded the roster, or the schedule rather, from 14 to 16 games in the late 70s. They used to play 6 preseason games. Now they play 4. It's 20 total games. It's been a very simple and logical mindset for the NFL. But the push toward making the game safer, you can't reconcile that with more regular season games. Well, the time has come apparently for the NFL to try. Mark Maskey of the Washington Post reports that the NFL could be pushing for 16 to 18 regular season games, a 2-game increase in this current labor negotiation. I still don't believe the NFLPA is going to go for it, Chris. It's going to take something big, far bigger than getting rid of the marijuana prohibition, far bigger than revamping the personal conduct policy. It's going to take something significant to get players to go along with 2 extra regular season games, because it is abundantly clear, Chris, they don't want 2 extra regular season games.
No, I mean, I can't see how they would. You know, first of all, at this just...
Now, before we go any further here, the NFL in 1978, they did change the format from 14 regular season games to 16 regular season games. So you can see that there has been 20 games for quite a long time. They are going to touch on some interesting points here, both for and against a 18-game regular season.
To start here, the 4 preseason games are very necessary right now in the NFL. With the practice restrictions and limitations on hitting, you know, yeah, okay, and Tom Brady, Aaron Rodgers, Khalil Mack, they don't need 4 preseason games. But the rest of the football does. These young guys you're trying to develop, that's an important time for them. I would also wonder, 18-game season, so what, they're going to start the season in August, mid-August? Is that how they're going to do it there? I just would like to understand the logistics of that.
He's about to mention something that I hadn't thought of before I seen this, about what the NFL intends to do if this thing were to push through.
No.
Yeah, okay.
They want to push. They want. Here's what they want to do. They desperately want to get the Super Bowl on President's Day weekend.
Oh, got you. America
still
and
start,
NFL together.
Still start the weekend after Labor Day and push it through to President's Day. So, well, you know, because one thing that people always ask for, move the Super Bowl to Saturday so I don't have to worry about working the next day. Hey, perfect alternative. You play it on a 3-day weekend. People don't have to worry about working on Monday for the most part. And then you have the Super Bowl that Sunday. That's what they'd like to do. So it wouldn't start in August. It would start when it always does. It would just extend deeper into February.
Okay.
So could you guys imagine a Super Bowl in the middle of February? Usually we have it at the first weekend in February, but they're talking about a Saturday game, if not a Saturday game, a Sunday game, so that we can have the Monday off after the Super Bowl. That's kind of not a bad point. I know a lot of people think that the day after the Super Bowl should actually be a national holiday. So let's finish watching.
I really would love that. I mean, first of all, I think the Monday after the Super Bowl should be a national holiday.
I just said that. Thanks, Chris.
In this country. So I actually like that aspect of it, but I don't necessarily like 18 games. No, I don't. We're having a hard enough time finding a full team at full strength in a 16-game season. That was one of the things I said in the first hour. But yeah, we got a lot of teams who limp into the playoffs every year. So also, it is hypocritical if the NFL wants to talk about player safety and then all of a sudden just go, yeah, but we want you to kill each other 2 more weeks of the year in the most physical sport in the planet. So I don't like that either. I would think major concessions have to be made because this is major money, major TV money. You mentioned it. It's major gambling money. It's 2 more weeks of the whole country gambling on every game in the NFL. That's big time.
Now, before he finishes, the NFL makes a bunch of money every year. And I think 2016 or 17, the NFL made $13 billion. So if the NFL does decide to extend for 2 more games, imagine the revenue, because let's be honest, guys, that's what this thing is all about. If it's not making money, they don't want to pursue it. So that's why it's the owners that's advocating for this over the players. The players are like, we're good with a 16-game regular season. We spend the 4 preseason games with those who are not locked into a roster spot playing for a job. And then those other 16 games we play with stakes on the line. But it is the owners going for this because that's what it's all about. It's all about dollar bills, y'all.
I understand why the NFL wants it, but like I said, they're going to have to really, I think, make a major concession to the players to get this done.
Do you think that all these changes they've been making in an effort to make the game safer, do you think at some point they're going to say, hey, look at everything we've done to make the game safer? Most recently, no more Oklahoma drills. And they say they do it so these safety measures will trickle down to the lower levels of the sport. But at some point, maybe they could say, things are a lot different than they used to be. Playing 18 regular season games isn't as big of a safety risk as it used to be. Do you think they're trying to set that up?
I do think they're trying to set that up. I guess what I'd have to see, maybe some numbers on that too. It's about, where the game is going safety-wise. And I know it's going in the right direction. So if they can continue to prove that guys are staying healthier and, maybe there's not, the effects that there might have been playing football in the 80s and 90s, whatever it may be. Yeah, it seems like, again, they're trying to make the sport cleaner, safer, better to watch, better for young kids to play growing up. No bad examples by, spearing players or doing anything like that. And I get it, and it's great, but it's still an incredibly physical sport, as physical as ever because of the specific training of players, and all they've done is, play defensive end since they were a freshman in high school, and that's all they've worked at and eaten, and that's all they do. They're consumed with that, and that's where the game has become different than maybe 25, 30 years ago.
One idea that's been lingering for the past several years, the notion of expanding to 18 regular season games, but limiting each player's participation per season to 16 games. That would force coaches to decide which week we sit guys down. Now, there would be exemptions for kickers and punters and long snappers and holders and quarterbacks. Quarterbacks are protected more than other players.
Yeah.
And how can you play a game without your starting quarterback? But would that be, that's something, I know there are people in the league who are fascinated by that concept. Now, a lot of players naturally miss games during a season anyway because of injury, and I think a lot of the tough decisions that a coach would have to make will be taken care of by, the running back's missing this week's game. Well, that's one less game we have to worry about when we would identify which week we're going to put him on the bench. But that is something that gives the NFL what it wants, and it addresses the safety concern, at least on the surface, by saying, hey, you're not going to play more than 16 games. Do you think that would go over with the union?
Now, check this out, guys. He basically told us in this video what we already know, is that the NFL is pushing for this. This isn't a player push thing. This is all about the NFL trying to make additional funds because, let's be honest, again, that's what it's all about. Now, how would you feel if the running back or your particular favorite player or a player that you came to see had to sit? Now, my thing is, all right, how much different is that from the preseason? So we know that Matthew Stafford and company might not even show up in the first game of the preseason. Then again, they might play a quarter. They might play a series. Or that could be in the last preseason game of the season that they play a series to get them started for the actual season, the 16-game season. But what happens if at the end the NFL, now they're not gonna make Matthew Stafford sit. They might make Kerryon Johnson sit, or they might have, it probably won't be a quarterback, especially not a franchise quarterback. But at the same time, how much different is that? Now these games mean something. These games mean something as in record-wise. So now you're going to have your star running back sit down for week 17 because you mandate certain players to sit down. So then how much does that differ from the actual preseason? So it seems like they're trying to have a little bit of the preseason so that they can not put this type of pressure on these player bodies for 18 games. But at the same time, it's like we still getting a little bit of preseason anyway. So anyway, I don't know about that.
I mean, maybe, I guess, the first thing that comes, that's just be tremendously hard to juggle rosters like that.
That's what I'm saying.
I mean, you're right. There's injuries and guys miss, game or two here all throughout the season. But I just find it, okay, this is a week this offensive lineman's supposed to not play because he's played 15 games already. And then, you go through the week of practice and all of a sudden somebody gets hurt and you're going, oh my gosh, we got to sign more players. I don't know how that would work. That seems like it would be very hard to me, and it'd be very stressful and tough on organizations to have to do that balancing act through the season. Do they add another bye week to the year with 18 games? Does that even talk about? No, they just want one.
That would screw up that calendar.
Yeah, right.
That would. And look, I'm glad you mentioned the bye week, because another alternative that has been thrown out there is the idea of adding a bye week and going to 17, not 18.
Okay.
And I actually like 17.
I can deal with that.
If they're going to do anything,
right?
Because it.
All right, so now they're going to address not an 18-game season, but a 17-game season with adding another bye week. So now we've got a different twist on an 18-week season, but 17 games.
I don't like 8 and 8. What's 8 and 8?
I like that. I agree with that.
I want 8 and 7 or 7 and 8, or more accurately, if we'd have 17 games, it'll be 9 and 8 or 8 and 9. Unless somebody goes 8, 8 and 1. Everyone's either going to have a winning record or a losing record, and there's something that's just viscerally appealing about that. Plus, with those 16 extra games that come from playing a 17-game season, those are 16 games that can be played on a neutral site, and you don't have to worry about people giving up home games. Everybody's got 8 home games, and everybody plays one neutral site game. And you can play neutral site games in London, in Mexico, in Canada, wherever. And you can also play some neutral site games in the United States at, Ann Arbor, or at the South Bend Notre Dame Stadium, or at Penn State Stadium. You can do all sorts of creative things with those 16 extra games that are all played on a neutral site, and I think that's why. And maybe they're pushing 18 with the idea
of getting
that
17.
When it's time to negotiate, we'll take 17.
Now, I think that's where this idea falls apart, is the neutral site. Could you imagine? Okay, you have the Detroit Lions and the Chicago Bears, and you get 8 home games and 8 away games, and then you guys will play, every team will have to play on a neutral site. So he mentioned Ann Arbor. So he mentioned the Big House. So then that's honestly not a neutral site. It'll be more Lions fans than Bears fans, but I see what he's trying to do there. But my thing is, could you imagine the logistics behind trying to get every 16 more games, okay, or however many games it is, in a neutral site? Mexico, London. That's where I think that this idea kind of falls apart at. However, it is truly all about money here with the NFL. It's always been, and it always will be. Player safety, to me, is not even a close second. So I think that's where the 17-game season kind of falls apart at.
The players are going to want something significant if this is going to happen, a bigger piece of the pie. They're going to want expanded rosters. I think that's a given. I think you do put in play some of the things that maybe would be pie in the sky for players, like getting rid of the franchise tag or shortening the contracts that players sign when they come out of college. Maybe they're all 3 years instead of 4 years. There are a lot of major concessions if you're willing to do this. And I credit the NFLPA for taking such a hard line against 18 games all these years. It shows how valuable it is to get the players to agree. And the players are smart on this because it is extremely valuable to the league to add those 2 extra weeks. If you
see what he just
the
said
money
there?
that is paid
Right.
for 17 weekends of football and add 2 more to make it 19 weekends and push the Super Bowl into President's Day weekend, and everything gets bigger and everything gets more profitable, I think that there is a willingness at some level, if the league really wants it, to make a major concession that the players could look at and say, how can we say no to 18 regular season games if this is what they're offering?
Yeah, I mean, I hear you, and maybe they will make an offer to where the players just go, okay, we can't say no to this. But I still worry about the injury rate. I mean, it's hard enough to get through the year, 16 games as is. And then if you talk about the guys that got to get into the playoffs, also does 18 games, you're getting more chances for the big-time stars to get hurt, which also can hurt the playoffs. Are the players going to be too worn down for the time of the year where we want to see the best quality football, which is the playoffs? 2 more games to the list. I don't know if you're going to necessarily see the best football there has to be offered. So that would be my concerns as a player. Come late January and things like that. I just don't know if everybody realizes the struggle the body's got to go through at that point. After 20-something weeks of legit football contact, hard, rigorous workouts on a daily basis, all that would be my concerns. This is what I wanted to say before, and I blanked out, and I'm sorry. The odd schedule thing is interesting that year. That's an interesting point. There's no sport that I know of that has an odd number of games for their season, right? Am I wrong about that? I mean, it's 82 for basketball. It's 162 for baseball. Hockey, I believe, is 82 as well, right?
82.
Yeah, so it is an interesting point you brought up there. That's where I got flustered in my brain. Sorry, I forgot that before.
Is this something you want to see? Is an 18-game season something that you as a football fan would like to see? Is a 17-game season something you would like to see? My issue is he had mentioned something about the quality of the game being less when the playoffs start. And I can agree and disagree with that. I agree because, that's a lot of abuse to the body and things like that. So the quality may be down. But for those wild card games and stuff anyway, they're not very entertaining to begin with. I mean, last year we had a lot of entertaining wild card game weekends. Not only that, the higher seeded teams tend to win the games anyway. So I don't know how much of a difference that would make. Essentially, you're taking 2 preseason games away and you're adding 2 more regular season games, with the difference from what I'm hearing that you would hold players to a 16-game season. So players could only play a 16-game season. So then the logistics of making the roster big enough to facilitate that, because like he said earlier, 53 men is not enough. Will we see this? I don't know. The last time the league changed was before I was born. So that's 1978, and it's been 41 years now of a 16-game season. I think it's been like that for a reason, but at the same time, the game has gotten safer over the last 40 years. The NFL is all about more money and more money and more money. And eventually, I do believe that we will see more than 16 regular season games in the NFL. So guys, once again, let me know your thoughts in the comment. I know this was more of a long video, longer than what you're typically used to from me, and I appreciate me holding your attention for all of this time. So if you are here to the end, go ahead and comment in hashtag 18-game NFL season if you made it to this point in the video. Be sure to check out the link for my fellow DSA members, part of the Detroit Sports Alliance, where we are trying to bring fair, unbiased, positive representation. So thank you so much for watching. My name is Derek P. Fields. This is the Gridiron Blitz. Be sure you subscribe and hit that notification bell so you can get notified of all my videos. Thank you so much for watching. Derek is out. Peace. Want more from the Gridiron Blitz? Click here to see the latest Roundtable Detroit Lions podcast. And click over here to see the rise of Detroit's own Luke G's Field Review.